Hey space fans, are you ready to look back on all the major events of 2022? From the major updates to SpaceX's Starship and Falcon 9 rockets, to the successful launch of NASA's Artemis 1 mission, there's a lot to cover. So sit back and join us on a journey through the year in space. It was a big year for space exploration, with a number of achievements and advancements from various organizations around the globe. The most exciting news, however, came from SpaceX, which made headlines with 2 hat-trick launches. A hat-trick launch, in case you missed it, is the successful launch of 3 rockets in a short period of time. And in 2022, SpaceX accomplished this feat not once, but twice. They launched 3 Falcon 9 rockets in 36 hours and 18 minutes. In June, breaking the record for the quickest time for any commercial company that had previously completed 3 launches of the same rocket. A Starlink mission, a scientific Earth observation satellite, and a commercial communication satellite were all part of this. Then in December, they broke their own record by launching 3 Falcon 9 rockets in a record-breaking 33 hours and 46 minutes. The first mission, which carried the joint US-French surface, water, and ocean topography mission, launched on December 16th from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. Just over 11 hours later, the second launch carried the first 2 Boeing-built O3B mPOWER satellites for satellite operator SES. And less than a day after the second launch, a batch of Starlink V1.5 satellites from NASA's Kennedy Space Center were launched. These hat-trick launches not only demonstrated SpaceX's reusable rocket technology efficiency and speed, but also its capability. SpaceX was able to save time and money on these missions by using previously flown boosters, which is a significant step toward their end goal of making space travel more accessible and sustainable. But SpaceX's achievements in 2022 didn't end there. In March, they delivered some hardware to their Starbase facility in Texas. The purpose of this hardware is currently unknown, but it is possible that it will be used to build a lift jig for the Starship rocket. The Starship is a fully reusable spacecraft designed for Moon, Mars, and beyond missions, and the lift jig would be used to support the rocket during assembly and testing. Another change for SpaceX in 2022 was the use of electric thrust vector control for the Falcon 9 rocket. Thrust vector control alters the direction of a rocket's thrust, which is critical for maintaining flight stability and steering. SpaceX previously used hydraulic systems for this function, but the company now switched to electric actuators, which are lighter, easier to maintain, and even more reliable. In addition, SpaceX has been testing a new tank ship called Test Tank Ship 26 in its Can Crusher rig. The Can Crusher is a testing facility used to simulate the extreme forces experienced by the Starship during launch and landing. Test Tank Ship 26 is an important step toward the development of a fully functional Starship, and it will be tested further in the coming months. Also, with the installation of a fuel transfer pipe, SpaceX has made progress on the development of the Falcon 9 rocket's Booster 10. The fuel transfer pipe is an important component that allows the rocket to transfer fuel from the first to the second stages while in flight. This was an important step toward the Falcon 9 rocket's continued development and optimization. SpaceX also had a busy year in terms of launches, with a goal of completing 60 orbital flights in 2022. They successfully launched the Starlink 5-1 and the Air C3 missions, and they continued to make progress on their Starlink satellite internet service. All of these missions were part of the 60 orbital flights plan of 2022. The biggest and most difficult project for SpaceX this year was the upgrade of their Raptor engine. The Raptor engine is an important part of the Starship because it powers both the Super Heavy booster and the upper stage. In order to complete a lunar mission successfully, these engines will need to relight on the Moon's surface in order to transport astronauts back into orbit inside the Starship. SpaceX has been working on improving the Raptor engine in order to produce 7 engines per week. The Raptor 1.0 upgraded to the Raptor 2.0, which increased performance and thrust while reducing the number of parts. The Raptor 2.0 engine now produces approximately 510,000 pounds of thrust, which is comparable to the thrust produced by the RS-25 engine on NASA's Space Launch System rocket. The use of a full-flow staged combustion cycle or FFSCC, is a significant improvement in the Raptor 2.0. This means that the engine runs on super-chilled liquid oxygen and super-chilled liquid methane, which maximizes the amount of propellant used for a given amount of thrust. The FFSCC cycle is an excellent choice for rocket engines and one of the reasons that the Raptor 2.0 is so powerful. The Raptor 2.0's engine design also has been simplified. Because of the numerous development sensors and valves required to track pressure and temperature throughout the engine's plumbing, the Raptor 1.0 had a Christmas tree appearance. The Raptor 2.0, on the other hand, has a much more cleaner appearance due to the removal of many of these components. This simplification not only makes the engine more flame and heat resistant, but it also aligns with the SpaceX goal of removing all engine shrouding from the booster, reducing its mass by about 6 metric tons. With the development of the SN25 prototype in 2022, the Starship also received a major upgrade. The inclusion of the Raptor 2 engines with electric thrust vector control hardware is one of the SN25's most significant improvements. This new design should make the engines easier to manufacture and lighter, improving the Starship's overall performance. In addition to the Raptor 2 engines, the SN25 prototype has a thrust section that separates the engines. This allows for the engines to operate independently, increasing the vehicle's dependability and lowering the risk of damage from a single engine failure. Other enhancements to the SN25 prototype include new fuel management systems and a redesigned pressurization system. These enhancements will aid in better control of the flow of fuel to the engines and maintaining proper pressure within fuel tanks, ensuring optimal performance. While SpaceX dominated the headlines in 2022, there were several other major space events worth mentioning, including China's Gearfan 1104 and Cheyenne 1002 satellites. But the breaking news was NASA's Artemis 1 mission, which is an unmanned moon-orbiting mission and the Artemis program's first major spaceflight. On November 16, 2022, Artemis 1 was successfully launched from Kennedy Space Center. Its primary goal was to test the Orion spacecraft, particularly its heat shield, in preparation for future Artemis missions. These missions will attempt to establish and sustain human presence on the moon, while also demonstrating technologies and business models needed for future scientific studies, such as the highly anticipated Mars exploration. On November 21st, the Artemis 1 completed a lunar flyby and will eventually return to Earth after 42 days, 1.3 million miles of a journey. Artemis is part of NASA's larger lunar exploration plans, which include lunar surface astronaut missions, a lunar human habitat, and the Gateway Space Station. Artemis 1 also lays the groundwork for its next two missions. Artemis 2 in 2024 will send humans on a similar lunar journey, and Artemis 3 in 2025 will make history by landing the first woman and the first person of color on the lunar surface. The Crew 2 mission to the International Space Station, however, was perhaps NASA's most notable event this year. The international crew of 4 spent 199 days in orbit, setting a record for the longest spaceflight by a U.S. crewed spacecraft. The Crew 2 mission launched on April 23rd on a Falcon 9 rocket from Kennedy Space Center in Florida, and the Crew Dragon Endeavour spacecraft safely splashed down in the Gulf of Mexico. However, it wasn't all good news in the world of space exploration this year. In December, NASA announced that its Mars InSight mission had come to an end after 4 years of studying the planet's interior. The stationary lander, which landed on Mars in 2018, lost power due to Martian dust covering its solar panels and was last communicated with on December 15th. Despite attempts to contact the spacecraft, we are unlikely to hear from InSight ever again. While the mission did end on a sad note, it did make a number of significant discoveries about Mars's deep interior, including the planet's thin crust and the presence of a molten core. But overall, 2022 was a major year for space exploration, with a number of achievements and advancements from organizations around the globe. The most exciting news came from SpaceX, which completely dominated the space industry. We can't wait to see what the future of space travel holds, and we're excited to see what 2023 has in store for us. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, and watch these ones as well.